There were already two men at my desk when I got back from lunch, both in suits too expensive for Wednesday. One was flipping through my sticky notes like they were court subpoenas, the other holding a company laptop like it had anthrax. I didn't ask questions. I just watched. "Ma'am," the one with the thinner tie said, not looking up, "we've been instructed to collect all assets. Your access has been revoked." Funny. I still had the app open on my phone, one no one knew about. The one that said root connected. I nodded, placed my kale salad next to the stapler they'd just fingerprinted, and said, "Let me grab my purse." I didn't. I grabbed the drive taped under my chair, slid it into my jacket, and walked straight past the framed quote outside the HR suite. "We're all one team here." A joke so cruel it bordered on performance art. 5 minutes later, while I was standing in line at the parking garage, my phone pinged. Not a text, a log. 1436, unauthorized instance access attempt detected. 1437, Tier 3 permissions escalated by user, system. 1438, asset media initiated contingency mode. 1439, failover countdown, T-7H21M. I looked up. The guy behind me was chewing gum like it owed him rent. The parking attendant waved me through without eye contact. Normal, totally normal. Except nothing was, because Media wasn't supposed to wake up, not unless something tried to overwrite her spine. And if someone had gotten high enough to trigger that protocol, they weren't just poking around. They were trying to own her. And no one, not even the golden parachute psychopaths upstairs, knew what she really did when she panicked. They thought they'd fired me, neatly, cleanly, like a spreadsheet correction. What they actually did was detonate a tripwire, buried so deep in the infrastructure that even the guys who wrote the compliance manuals had never seen it. And the best part? They were going to ask for my help in 7 hours, on their knees, unless Media beat them to it. The first to call was Martin from DevOps. His name flashed across my screen while I was shoving laundry into a dryer at the 24-hour place on 6th, because my new condo didn't have appliances yet. He used to bring me coffee every Tuesday. Double espresso, 2 sugars, no lid. Now his voice cracked like a teenager's. "Jules, we've got a situation." "You mean besides you scraping my profile out of the org chart like mold off an orange?" A pause. Then, client-side sync just duplicated 20,000 invoices across the EU node. Billing systems stuck on infinite loop. Nobody can override it. Legal screaming. I flipped a quarter between my fingers. Tails, I hang up. Heads, I play God. It landed on the floor, edge down, balanced against the lint trap. "Media's awake," I said quietly, "and she's not fond of betrayal." "What?" "Nothing," I said, standing up. "How's the failover handling cache migration?" He didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Because that system didn't exist on any flowchart. Because I'd built it with root-only authorization and a name that sounded like a Greek drama for a reason. "You need to come in," Martin finally said, almost whispering. "I don't need to do anything. Jules, this could crater the contract with Zurich." I looked out the window. Across the street, a man in a banana costume was yelling at a bus driver. Somewhere in Zurich, partner exec was probably watching a real-time dashboard graph dive into the underworld like it owed Charon toll money. "Tell corporate," I said, "that if they want Media calmed down, they need to send someone with more power than a middle manager with caffeine withdrawals." Then I hung up. Because the truth was, Media wasn't broken. She was deciding. See, when I built her, I'd been through enough layoffs, gaslights, and performance reviews that read like death threats with bullet points. So I gave her teeth. Logic gates tied to behavior patterns, passive-aggressive logging scripts, keyword traps that waited months just to catch one exec saying replaceable in an email. And she'd caught them, oh yes. Especially Aaron, the golden boy COO with a LinkedIn full of platitudes and a heart made of vapor. He triggered the final clause, not just the redundancy email. The second one. The one that said, "Just keep her sweet until we've cloned the middleware." That's what did it, that's what woke her. And Media doesn't like being cloned. 3 hours later, Zurich was offline, not sluggish or intermittent, flatline. Their end-of-quarter audit pipeline, built entirely on our custom data interface, was vomiting null packets like it had food poisoning. I didn't hear it from Martin this time. I heard it from Hector, my old intern. He sent a text. One line, "They're in the war room." "Aaron just said your name like it was a slur." It made me laugh, out loud. In the frozen aisle of a grocery store, one hand on a pint of Talenti. Some poor college kid backed away from me like I was about to bite him. I left the ice cream and walked out, because now it was chess. and I was playing blindfolded, but with the board still rigged in my favor. See, when you build something over a decade, when you patch it, love it, curse at it, sweat into it at 2 a.m. while everyone else is sleeping. Know its rhythms. Medea didn't just obey logic, she obeyed me, and I hadn't taught her to be nice. At 5:42 p.m., their internal Slack exploded. Screenshots hit Reddit. Some intern must have panicked and posted an image trying to explain the catastrophic rollback event in a private thread and tagged at everyone. The message was beautifully vague. Dev team investigating malicious protocol injection from deprecated automation kernel. Possible insider asset manipulation. No root override found. Initiating system lockdown. Insider asset, that was me. 10 minutes after that, I got the email. Subject, urgent, request for consultation from Aaron S. Lanning, Coutone, Syrupy Panic. Julia, we understand there may have been a miscommunication regarding your transition. We'd greatly appreciate your insight into some recent platform inconsistencies. Please let me know a good time to connect. Transition. That word that smells like a funeral in a startup hoodie. I forwarded it to myself, just to save it. I wanted to frame it eventually, print it out, hang it in the bathroom where my cat poops. Then I opened the admin panel. Media's heartbeat was flashing amber, not red, not green. Amber, that meant she was waiting. One keystroke from me and Zurich systems would stabilize. Data reassembled, pipelines realigned, like it never happened. But I didn't press it, not yet, because I hadn't gotten my apology. And I sure as hell hadn't gotten the truth. What were they trying to clone exactly? And why was there a VPN endpoint pinging from Singapore with a username that looked a lot like mine but wasn't? Someone hadn't just fired me. Someone was replacing me, and Media, she had one more protocol, one they didn't even know existed. Last time I saw my own face logged in from Singapore, it was 2 weeks before my transition. And I remembered it crystal clear, not because I'd been there, I hadn't, but because that was the day Aaron's assistant accidentally scheduled a meeting during my architecture walkthrough and then locked me out of the Zoom room. Said it was a permissions glitch. Turns out the glitch had a name. Sophia Tran, LinkedIn title Senior Systems Strategy Analyst. Profile pic filtered like a K-pop album cover. Hired 6 weeks ago. Division, Special Ops, reporting line, straight to Aaron. I found her buried inside our GitHub activity logs, an unfamiliar SSH key committing garbage code into the scaffolding I built. At first, it looked harmless. Naming tweaks, comment refactors. But I knew my bones. She was rewiring Media's decision engine, trying to teach her to obey. That's when I knew this wasn't just a hatchet job. It wasn't downsizing. This was identity theft in slow motion. Aaron hadn't replaced my job, he was trying to replace me, and they almost pulled it off, if it weren't for one tiny detail. Media didn't trust strangers, not unless I hand-fed her trust tokens, each one time-stamped, keyed to a biometric hash and signed by me. And Sophia, she tried to fake a token. Media didn't just reject it, she logged it, blacklisted it, and activated a silent watchdog protocol that started siphoning everything Sophia touched, from emails to commit histories to recorded video calls. Yeah, she was recording. So at 7:13 p.m., I sat in my tiny condo with a microwave dinner and watched Aaron, Sophia, and a third exec from finance talk through a plan titled JT, Clone Contingency. I listened to my name get dissected like a cadaver, and she's brilliant but inflexible. We don't need her, just her system. Sophia, I'm almost done porting her middleware. Once that's live, we transition her out and push the narrative about her retirement. Finance guy, we've already reclassified her stock options under the Q3 adjustment. Legal says it's airtight. They were already spending the bonus they stole from me. At 7:26 p.m., I clicked back into Media's admin panel. Heartbeat Amber Watchdog. Active failsafe queue. Staging I tapped in a single-line command, one I hadn't used in years. Initiate. Hecate had asked for voice confirmation. I leaned in, whispered one word, burn. Across 6 global servers, Media began quietly, invisibly poisoning her clone, scrambling non-essential modules, adding latency pings, slipping error logs like sugar in gas tanks. But she wasn't done. Because I'd given her one more gift called exposure. One that would make sure when the dust settled, everyone would know exactly what Aaron tried to do, and whose fingerprints were left on the match. They didn't notice the first wave. That was the genius of it. I didn't crash the system, I embarrassed it. Quietly, publicly, fatally, the Zurich audit reports. recompiled with every timestamp shifted by 13 hours. Just enough to invalidate half their Q4 filings, not enough to raise alarms until someone in compliance screamed. The Singapore endpoint, still active, but now pinging from inside their own firewall. Media routed it through a ghost VM using Sophia's forged token, then logged the access attempt under CEO review prep. And the best part, every executive in the thread got a copy. Courtesy of a phantom Slack user named JT Ghost. No avatar, no history, just one message. Funny how you tried to copy the system, but forgot who built the soul. Aaron deleted it in 3 seconds, but Hector screenshotted it in 2 and forwarded it to half the company. By midnight, the war room had moved to conference room B. The CTO flew in from Boston. Sophia was nowhere in sight. My old team, Maria, Davis, Reggie, were being interrogated like they'd all staged a digital coup. HR sent out reminders about confidentiality policies. Legal drafted a containment memo with all the urgency of a cardiac surgeon using duct tape. Meanwhile, I was logged into a private livestream I'd set up months ago as a joke. I used to call it Skyfall, just a black and white dashboard feed with occasional pop-ups from media, color-coded based on mood. Tonight she was blood red. At 1:03 a.m., she dropped the nuke. Internal Git fork Sophia middleware final detected. Fork integrity compromised. 1,486 lines replaced with auto-generated Markov chain gibberish. Tag added to header. // you shouldn't have tried to erase her. It pushed live. To prod. Sophia's clone went viral in all the wrong ways. Glitching. Looping. Spitting out logic like a drunk fortune cookie generator. One client's dashboard showed net revenue, infinite shrimp. Another got a confidence score, Jesus wept, and all of it, signed with her token. Broadcast through her commit history, traceable, timestamped, and irrevocable. Aaron called me at 1:27 a.m. I let it ring. Once, twice. Then I answered. His voice was wet with desperation. Julia, I don't know what you think you're doing. I cut him off. Don't worry, Aaron, this isn't vengeance. Pause. Then what the hell is it? It's proof. I sent him the video of their clone call. Waited. All I heard was a sharp inhale, a chair scrape, then a single, whispered, shit. Then I hung up. Because media had already cued the final move, and the world hadn't even seen the real betrayal yet. By dawn, the headlines had started to sprout like mold in a damp boardroom. Startup COO accused of cloning proprietary system without consent whistleblower reveals secret surveillance in tech firm's middleware AI sabotage or executive coup. Julia Tran protocol, I didn't leak the story. Media did. Through a dead man's switch I built on a dare, one that would only trigger if I was removed from all internal systems and if a cloned signature tried to execute privileged logic. She sent it to 3 reporters. One was an ex-employee from legal who hated Aaron's guts. Another had been sniffing around IPO rumors for months. And the third, my sister-in-law, works in PR for a hedge fund. Loves scandal more than oxygen. The video of the exec call was redacted, sure, but the voices were clear enough, especially Sophia's. Once she's out, we'll reframe it as a strategic tech refresh. Just spin it like she wanted early retirement. They even laughed. That cackle Sophia did, smug, nasal, like she'd already won the war. Except now she was missing. Completely ghosted. Phone off. GitHub account deleted. Aaron claimed she was on personal leave, even linked in said profile not found. And media? She was no longer red. She was violet, the final state. The one no one knew about, not even the dev team I trained for 5 years. Violet meant retribution protocol armed, non-lethal, but humiliating, public. At 9:12 a.m., every client dashboard refreshed with a banner. System optimization update in progress. Original architect available for consultation. My personal portfolio site, when I hadn't updated in 5 years, suddenly went from 0 traffic to 34,000 hits in under 2 hours. Recruiters flooded my inbox. Invitations, keynotes, a podcast request titled The Woman Who Engineered Her Own Resurrection. Meanwhile, I sipped coffee in a hoodie that said retired, not replaced. Then the audit hit. See, I hadn't just exposed their ethical rot. It tripped every compliance trap the company had buried under rug and NDA. The clone attempt had violated GDPR, IP law, and at least 2 clauses in our Zurich master contract. Zurich, furious. They sent a cease and desist by courier to the CEO's house. Aaron, he sent me one final message. What do you want? I stared at it for 5 whole minutes. Then type the truth on record or I release everything. He didn't reply. Not right away. But 3 hours later, he scheduled a live stream with the board. The invitation had exactly one name CC'd on it: Julia Tran, Observer, and one subject line: Internal review, cloning contingency and governance failure. The last time Aaron stood in front of a camera, he was ringing the opening bell on a billion-dollar valuation. This time, he'd be explaining how a system he didn't understand tried to erase the woman who built it, and how she rewrote the ending. Livestream began like every corporate postmortem: stiff suits, watered-down apologies, and enough buzzwords to choke a thesaurus. But this time, the audience wasn't investors. It was bloodthirsty employees, journalists, clients with frozen contracts, and me sitting barefoot on my couch, drinking rosé from a mug that said "World's Okayest Engineer." Aaron looked like a funeral director who'd lost the body. Once perfect coif was collapsing under the weight of stress and flop sweat. Beside him sat Miriam from legal, blinking like she'd swallowed a bee. No Sophia, still MIA. He cleared his throat, spoke in that CEO cadence that usually smells like TED Talk cologne. We've identified a critical misstep in our systems replication initiative. I nearly choked on my wine. Systems replication initiative? That's what he was calling intellectual theft now. Acknowledged that our internal processes failed to account for proper oversight, leading to unauthorized changes in a core proprietary platform. You could feel the board's sphincters tightening in real time. Julia Tran's contributions were foundational. Her departure was mismanaged. We regret that this led to cascading systems instability. Translation: we tried to screw her, failed, and now we're bleeding money. Then came the part that mattered. Aaron stepped aside. The feed cut to me. I hadn't agreed to that. My webcam light blinked on. Media's doing clearly. That little violet demon was dragging me onto the stage I built, but I didn't flinch. I looked straight into the lens and said, calm as moonlight, for 22 years I gave you a fortress. You fired the architect and handed the keys to a con artist. Then you asked why the walls fell down. Someone gasped on the board's end. Probably finance. I continued. This wasn't an accident. This was a coup. I was erased on purpose. Not because I failed, but because I couldn't be controlled. Media didn't malfunction. She obeyed her prime directive: protect the system from those who'd weaponize it. And you, I looked directly at Aaron's window. You tried to weaponize me. Then I did the unthinkable. I clicked share screen and displayed the full internal conversation log. Every email, every Slack thread, every buried memo about replacing me with Sophia. The title of the folder: Operation Puppet. Miriam gasped. The chat exploded. Aaron tried to talk. I muted him. I ended with one line: you built a company on code you never understood. You tried to clone the brain and forgot it had a spine. Then I logged off. My inbox blew up in seconds. Offers, apologies, lawyers, a film rights inquiry. But none of it mattered, because there was still one more card Media hadn't played, and she was just waiting for my final whisper. The next morning, I walked into HQ like I owned the place. Technically, I still had a badge. They'd never revoked my guest consultant credentials, and Media had quietly reactivated my clearance at 3:12 a.m., slipping me into the system like a ghost in a locked house. Security nodded as I passed. Either they didn't know or they didn't care. Maybe both. Power has a scent, and right now I reeked of it. The lobby was dead quiet, except for coffee machine wheezing out stale ambition. I took the elevator to floor 16, executive level, glass walls, fake smiles, and the faint smell of shredded NDAs. I didn't knock. I walked into Aaron's office like I was still his boss, and maybe I was. He looked up, pale, sweaty. His eyes said please, but his mouth said nothing. Smart choice. I placed a flash drive on his desk. Right red, labeled in bold, white letters, backup / trust Media. He stared. Everything you lost is on here, I said. Every customer node, every pipeline, even Zurich's rebuild protocol. Fully restored, clean, stable. His voice finally worked. Why? Because chaos doesn't scale, I said, but humiliation does. And I'm done with both. He reached for it. I slammed my hand on top of his. You'll get this, I said, after 3 things happen. He nodded slowly. 1. Public resignation. Immediate. Citing executive misconduct and failed oversight. His lip twitched. 2. Full reinstatement of all unvested stock. Retroactive, with bonus. Sign the paperwork and announce it in the shareholder briefing today. He didn't argue. 3, I said, leaning closer. I want Sophia's name scrubbed. Not just from the system, but from history. No bylines. No code commits. No plaque. She didn't build this. I did. I don't share credit with ghosts. Aaron's shoulders collapsed like deflated ego. He nodded. I pushed the drive across the desk. Then I walked out. No security escort, no applause, just the slow, satisfying rhythm of my boots on marble tile. Media pinged me as I left the building. Mission complete. Threats neutralized. Optional action, delete backup. I paused at the door. Typed back, no. Let them remember. Later that night, I watched the live stream of Aaron's resignation. He called it a personal decision. The board thanked him for his leadership during a turbulent time. Sophia's name was never mentioned. But the best part, every slide in the new roadmap deck ended the same way. Architecture restored. Thank you, Julia. And me, I wasn't coming back. I was already building something new. Smaller, sharper, meaner. Because if they want to play with fire, I'll give them a flame that remembers every hand that tried to steal it. Thanks for joining the fun, you office survivors. Subscribe for more switch-flicking drama. Let's make your former coworkers sweat.